Zombies. Weird human but non-human creatures. At the same time, they feed on flesh and anything they can find in front of them. A physical, where once human matter but not human. Physically alive but cognitively dead. And an interesting fact to keep is how to turn into a zombie, which is easily done by not activating your mental abilities and blocking out your consciousness, which is blocking out your awareness, which is the ability to know who you are, what you are doing, where you are. It's also blocking out your ability to identify any external data, like not being able to know the taste of what you eat, or tasting but not being able to report it out loud. Through decades, a huge argument was going on about the mind and the body relationship, where there are people who think that consciousness is nothing but a set of material elements that are found inside the brain, while on the other hand, there are those who think that consciousness is not centered in physical elements and explanations only, but also subjective experiences. In the 90s, with the hopes of proving them wrong, David Chalmers made a mental experiment in his book, The Conscious Mind, where he said that if materialistic explanations about mental states were true, then we humans would not be more than a bunch of zombies. But why? He suggested this because zombies physically equal to humans. They can learn the same behaviors and have the same cognitive functions. But there is a difference that is fundamental, and that defends that it's not possible to explain consciousness by the simple existence of physical components. Although zombies have a physical composition identical to that of a human being, they have no consciousness and no subjective experiences with which they do not feel, and neither can they develop a consciousness of even being a zombie. For example, zombies can scream like people, but they do not have the subjective experience of pain. He concluded from that suggestion that the world cannot be explained only by physical materials, because the world is not only composed of physical properties, but also of subjective experiences that are phenomenal properties. I guess it's a very weird but logical point of view. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening to this and wherever you are, welcome to the second episode of Deeper. Today, we're gonna talk about awareness. This will make us dig deeper into the mind and unlock one of its deepest locks and secrets. Through the gates of consciousness, you enter the world of total humanity. You become aware of your environment, able to report what you sense, see, and do. You can also recall all this information later. During the night of May 23rd, 1987, Kenneth Parks, a 23-year-old Canadian, with a wife, a baby daughter, and heavily gambling debts, got out of his bed, climbed into his car, and drove 15 miles to the home of his wife's parents in Toronto. There, he attacked them with a knife, killing his mother-in-law and severely injuring his father-in-law. Parks then drove to a police station and stumbled into the building, holding up his bloody hands and saying, "I think I've killed some people." The police arrested him and took him to a hospital, where surgeons repaired several deep cuts on his hands. Only then did the police discover that he indeed assaulted his in-laws. Parks claimed that he could not remember anything about the crime. He said that he remembered going to sleep and then awakening in the police station with bloody hands, but nothing in between. His defense was that he had been asleep during the entire incident and was not aware of his actions. Not so convincing, so we thought that he would be claimed guilty. As not surprisingly, no one believed him. However, further investigation said that he did have a long history of sleepwalking. He had no motive for the crime, and despite repeated attempts to trip him up, he was completely consistent in his story, which also fit the timeline of events. Parks was examined by a team of sleep professionals who found that the pattern of brain waves that occurred while he slept was very abnormal. The professionals said that the sleepwalking was probably caused by stress and anxiety over his financial troubles. And this was the most likely explanation of his totally not normal or human behavior. They also agreed that such a combination of stressors was unlikely to happen again. So he was not likely to undergo another such violent episode, and was probably not dangerous to others. Given this evidence, he walked out of the courtroom a free man. Consciousness have states, as we are not all the time awake, alert, and able to report what's happening. But sometimes we act without being aware of what we do, like in Mr. Park's case. We can be less conscious than normal when, for example, sleep-deprived, drugged, using alcohol, or any of the deactivating brain activity things. We also lose some of our consciousness when we sleep, but the brain remains active. We will not talk about the stages of sleep in detail, but in short, there is a stage that occurs in the starting and ending of sleep, where the muscles shut down, and the dreams occur in this stage. Another stage, which is deep sleep, that we spend most of our sleep in, and a stage where sleep abnormalities such as sleepwalking, sleep talking, nightmares, and bedwetting occur. The sleepwalking murders committed by Mr. Parks would have occurred in this stage. Another interesting part of our consciousness is dreams. Firstly, dreams is the succession of images, thoughts, sounds, and emotions that pass through our minds while sleeping. We all dream, but some of us remember their dreams and others not. We all know that most of our dreams are nothing more than weird and impossible thoughts to achieve. But have you ever wondered why on earth do we dream such impossible nonsense? There have been many theories concerning the meaning of dreams and about the craziness in their content. But the most fascinating one and very hard to think of is the theory of the Austrian psychiatrist Sigmund Freud, which is that the dreams are wish fulfillment. I can't imagine what you're thinking of now, as I experienced the same when I first learned about it. Your mind now is bottling up with so many questions. How and why? What about nightmares? What about the dreams where I turn into an egg and talking to an apple? When I am enjoying my holiday in another planet? And also, you are now thinking about the dreams you remember to see if it's actually true or not. But I tell you that you will not be able to prove whether it's right before understanding how he thought about it. Freud suggested that dreams represent unconscious desires, thoughts, wish fulfillment, and motivations. Freud also said that the dreams is the way in which repressed thoughts, wishes, and longings in the unconscious find their way up to the consciousness, for us to be aware of. He also wrote in his book, Interpretation of Dreams, that dreams are disguised fulfillments of repressed wishes. He also said that there are two components that make up dreams: the manifest content, which is made up of actual images, thoughts, and content contained within the dream, while the latent content, which represents the hidden psychological meaning of the dream. Even some bad dreams, he found out the hidden wish fulfillment out of them. Unfortunately, the time will not be very handy to make me tell you one of his experiments and examples. But feel free to check the resources for more information about them. Of course, all his theory is explained in his books and researchers published. He also experimented on them to validate them. So it's not that nonsense as it seems. I really encourage you to read his book, or at least dig deeper into his theories, as they are one of the most fascinating, unexpected thoughts that you can ever think of. I really admire the creativity and out-of-box thinking of him. I hope you enjoyed this weird episode, and to meet again in the third episode of Deeper was with you, Hannah Muhammad, and thank you.